Hi boys and girls, here's our read aloud for this week. Study. Girls take longer time to recover from concussions. Recover. Ooh, I recognize that part of the word re. It means to do again. So to cover again. All right. Look at the picture. Check out the caption. Sports-related concussions may last twice as long for girls than boys, a new study reports. Photo from Wikimedia. Getting better after a concussion usually takes girls longer than boys, a new study says. I'm going to ask a question because that makes me curious. So, why do girls take longer to recover? And I'm going to keep that question in my head as I read. I'm going to try and see if this text will answer my question. Scientists looked at teenagers who had concussions while playing sports. A concussion happens when a hit to the head or body causes someone's head and brain to move rapidly back and forth. Other studies have shown that girls experience more concussions than boys. This definition of a concussion seems really important, so I'm going to put a star out to the side. Studies have also suggested that the healing process may be different for girls. Girls may take longer to recover. Sports medicine leaders met in Berlin, Germany last fall. They talked about concussions in sports. They discussed whether girls are more likely to have concussions that required a longer recovery than boys. However, there wasn't enough data to clearly say that this was the cause, says John Neerdecker. He is a sports medicine doctor in North Carolina. Doctors decided to look back at data on the athletes they had seen, he said. Medical records of 110 boys and 102 girls studied. Neerdecker and others studied the medical records of 212 middle and high school athletes. These students had visited a sports medicine office in New Jersey. The records were for 110 boys and 102 girls who had experienced their first concussion while playing a sport such as football or wrestling. Only first-time head injuries were looked at. They wanted to rule out any effects of prior injuries. The study was recently published. It showed a common recovery time for girls was 28 days. This was more than double that of boys, which was 11 days. I'm going to put a star because that answers our question that it does, in fact, take longer for girls to heal than boys. Other things could affect recovery time. So this might help me answer my question that I was wondering about, why it takes girls longer to recover than boys. After a concussion, some people get serious headaches. They might also show signs of mental illness, such as depression or anxiety. This can make recovery time longer. Yet, scientists have found that a longer recovery might come from having these conditions before a head injury. Previous studies have reported a longer recovery time for girls, Neerdecker says. However, nobody brought up that some of these conditions are more common in females, he says. So maybe it's not the concussion causing more trouble, but an existing problem that got worse, he says. I'm going to ask a question here. Why do girls worry more than boys? Because that's what anxiety is, this word here, that means they worry more. So why do girls worry more than boys? The study supports this idea somewhat. Neerdecker and his team first looked at students' medical histories. They found that the girls were more likely to have had serious headaches before they had a concussion than the boys. I'm going to put a star because that seems to be a big, important thing, that girls had had serious headaches before their concussions. Michael Collins is a scientist at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center. He was not part of this study. Collins points out that other things could affect recovery. His study shows that women also tend to have more eye and vision problems following a concussion than men. Those can require longer recovery times. I'm going to put a star by women and girls take longer because they might have eye and vision problems. Other scientists have proposed physical explanations for the difference. One is that women have smaller necks. The smaller size makes it harder to absorb the shock during a concussion. Hormones could also play a role. Hormones are chemicals that affect how different systems in our bodies work. Women tend to experience more changes in hormone levels than men. These changes can affect the amount of time it takes for the body to heal from a concussion. So I'm going to put a star by this paragraph about hormones, because that seems to also answer my question. Concussions are common in sports such as soccer and hockey. In these sports, heads bang and helmets clash. The public has learned more about serious health effects of head injuries. The National Football League has said that there's a link between its sport and brain injuries. I'm going to put a connection here because I have seen football games, American football games, where people have gotten concussions, where players get concussions. So maybe you've had a concussion, or you know someone who's had a concussion, or you've seen someone get a concussion on TV if you watch soccer. These injuries also happen in youth sports. A study was published last week in JAMA, the Journal of the American Medical Association. Scientists found that among 13,088 U.S. teens, about 1/5 of them reported at least one concussion in 2016. For those who had played a contact sport like football or wrestling, it was almost 1/3. Some experts question study method. Some concussion experts question the new study. Mayumi Prinz studies brain injuries in children at the University of California, Los Angeles. She says a concern is that the study used the athletes' own reports about their conditions. Reporting on oneself is often full of errors, Prinz says. She says scientists need a clear test to tell whether someone has had a concussion. One thing is clear. Despite the uncertainty, scientists will need to keep studying how these injuries affect young athletes. All right, so I'm going to look at this first, and it asks me a central idea chart. So my central idea chart, I'm going to think my who, what, when, where, why, my 5 W's. Who is that text about? What are those people doing in the text? When did this happen? Where did this happen? Why did this happen? So really think about the first page. It tells you a lot about this information about who's doing this research, what they're doing, when and where and why they're doing that research. Then write the central idea in a sentence. So my sentence starter for this would be, the central idea is, and then you're going to need to fill in the blanks. So go back up and figure out your who's going to go first, and then your what probably, and then figure out what's most important after that. Then you're going to write a summary. So to write a summary, you need your central idea. So the central idea is, and then you're going to fill that in, and then go back up here and do your check marks by each thing that you've already put in the central idea, and then fill in the extras with, for example, is one sentence starter you could use, or one key detail is. That's another sentence starter that you can do. You don't need to do this on Monday night. All right, this is Tuesday night's homework. Read the section, physical makeup of girls could also play a role. So for this one, you need to make sure that you go back and read this section. Physical makeup of girls could also play a role. Select the sentence from this section that suggests that people know more about concussions now than they used to. A. Other scientists have proposed physical explanations for the difference. B. Concussions are common in sports such as soccer and hockey. C. In these sports, heads bang and helmets clash. D. The public has learned more about the serious health effects of head injuries. Cross out the ones you know are wrong and then make a guess. 2. Read the section, Some Experts Question Study Method. So go back and read that section. Which sentence from the section shows why some scientists are questioning the study? A. Mayumi Prinz studies brain injury in children at the University of California, Los Angeles. B. Reporting on oneself is often full of errors, Prinz says. C. One thing is clear, despite the uncertainty. D. Scientists will need to keep studying how these injuries affect young athletes. 3. One main idea of the article is that girls take longer to recover from concussions than boys. What is another main idea of the article? A. Scientists need to test to tell if someone has a concussion. B. Sports doctors met in Germany to discuss concussions. C. Girls also get concussions more often than boys do. D. Differences in girls' bodies could make concussions worse. So go ahead and choose your answer, then go back into the text and make your check marks by each paragraph that talks about that answer. And if you have a lot of check marks, then it's probably the right answer. And if you only have 2 or 3 check marks, it's probably not a good answer and you need to go back and choose again. Read the sentence from the section. Other things could affect recovery time. They found that girls were more likely to have had serious headaches before they had concussions than boys. How does this sentence support a main idea of the article? A. By highlighting that researchers are more interested in headache than concussions. B. By showing that boys are not likely to experience headaches after a concussion. C. By providing a reason why it may take longer for girls to feel better after a concussion. D. By giving an explanation of what causes girls to have more headaches than boys. So think about which one of these supports this idea.